Yo, that was the Scenario remix of Tribe Called Quest, Leaders of the New School. Like we talked about earlier, one of the greatest posse cuts. That was remixed, but the original, one of the greatest posse cuts of all time. When you guys recorded that, was everybody in the studio? Like, did they come in there and do their verses in the studio? Like, back in the days.
I was just about to say, the way things used to be done.
Yeah. like it's weird because they email you a verse here and there, but you don't get that passion because when you guys are in there with Busta Rhymes and he had that wild ass energy, it made you want to step up and have wild ass energy too, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about me having wild
Not you,
energy,
of course not.
But yeah, definitely added to the like excitement of what is being made. And the funny thing is, Bus he will know a word and be like, "What's that word? What does that mean?" Yeah, and then he'll throw it in, and it's just like the way he ties something in, and it's just like, man, that's so crazy, you know. So that atmosphere greatly missed.
Yeah.
Because you know you writing something and it's like, it's just good, it's just whack, like, and it's like or say this on top of that sort of thing. And I think when in this time period where everything is kind of like emailed back and forth, it's just not the same. Even if someone says, you know what, this is cool, but go back and do it. It's just different if everybody's in the same room and, you know, just like not sleeping, it's late night and it's just like the music's loud and the atmosphere is just turned up, feeling good, and you make just beautiful. It comes out.
Yeah.
It comes and
it's not forced, it's organic.
It's organic.
Yeah.
And you feel it.
It's funny because Fife was talking about that session when you guys did the Scenario, and he was like, I asked him because like that was Busta Rhymes' coming out party. He was in Leaders and we all knew Leaders of New School, but after he did his verse in the Row whatever, that was his coming out party. And I asked Fife because his verse and Busta's verse is one of the verses that people quote a lot.
Yeah.
And I said, why did you go first? He said, because DJs used to, you know, cut off songs after a minute or two and go into the next song. So I wanted to be the first one. And then after I went first and I heard Busta Rhymes do his part, I was like, shit, I'm glad I went first and not after Busta because it was a showstopper.
I don't quite remember DJs cutting the songs off so quickly, especially back then. But I think Fife made the right decision.
Yeah.
And I can say that Scenario's one of the records in this atmosphere where people do end the song after 30 seconds that it gets through because Bus is at the end.
Yeah.
I think I've heard in some places where people kind of like they just cut in Busta a little bit earlier. So, you know, maybe it doesn't always get all the way through, but it's a good song.
Were you there when it was recorded?
Yeah.
So when he recorded his verse, what was the energy like in the room when he was in the booth and he started doing his thing or whatever? What was it like?
I don't really remember a lot of stuff from that time.
Okay.
Like, that was just really so long ago. We're talking like easily 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I do remember that. I remember him asking just, you know, certain words and being like really amped about it before he went in. And then when he went in, there was excitement, but I can't remember to the degree like who, like picturing every person in the room and where it was. I just remember that it was, we was just like, you know, it's just like, you know, you got one.
Yeah.
Like, ooh.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a random question. You're from New York, right? You guys.
Brooklyn, New York. For those who think I'm from Queens. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, see, I didn't know that. I assumed you was from Queens because everybody else is from Queens. So that is a revelation that we had right here on the show. Like, you're from Brooklyn.
Yeah, I didn't have a microphone.
So you couldn't say. Of course, they assumed that you was from, it's like Ice Cube's not from Compton, but he was part of the Compton crew. So, yeah.
Yeah, but he said straight out of Compton. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, he just
he went along with it.
He went along with it. I just didn't have a microphone.
So you being a New Yorker, and New Yorkers are passionate about their thing, the Yankees, the Knicks, or whatever. What is it gonna take for New York to get back their sound or a sound?
Oh, thank God this wasn't a sports question. I was like, oh, I just don't care about no, but no. I was like, I don't know where this jab is going, but yo.
He's like, that's the wrong member of the group.
New York sound
Because you guys had, I mean, New York had a sound back when you guys did your thing. Even though your sound was different from everybody else, it still was a New York sound.
I think that there's still a New York sound. You have like artists like Troy Ave, you know, like that's a New York sound.
Yeah. And that's you try to think about other artists that have New York sound?
No, I'm not even. There are a few like Flatbush Zombies. What's the other two kids? Now this is terrible. This is where the old man aspect is kicking in. I'm like
them young bucks that's from so and so
they
around
from
the way.
Flatbush too. I feel so bad because I'm like, yo, I've interviewed these guys. I'm like, that's just
of course Joey Badass too. He has a New York sound.
Yeah, and Joey and Pro Era. I really need to get to Phony People is another group that has a bit of a New York sound. It's just that because radio doesn't support that, and because there aren't also, you know, the video channels that's also supporting these, so you don't get to see it on the same scale that you got to see a lot of other things during the 90s.
Yeah.
So New York definitely has a sound. World's Fair is another group.
But are those people that you name like Troy Ave or Joey Badass or even Flatbush Zombies, do they have a new New York sound, or do they actually borrow the stuff that was already done and they just sound like that? That's why they...
I think that people might say something like that about Joey, but some of the other groups that I mentioned, no. Everyone has like an identity, and there's always going to be some element of the music that has a bit of the, you know, the fruit from the past, because, you know, we all are in the same area, but it's not wholly that golden era sound. There's a bit of that, but then there's something else added to it. So I think that it's just not broadcasted.
Yeah.
So you don't hear it.
What do you think about
what is broadcasted is the stuff that sounds from mainstream, is the stuff that sounds like the South, is the stuff that sounds like the West.
I was gonna say that. So what do you think about the artists that come from New York City that sound like somebody else, the South or the West? Because you guys were like, F everybody else, we are New Yorkers and this is what we do.
Yeah, well, I guess that time is coming.
And they're like, let's cash these checks, huh?
I don't know if it's necessarily cast the checks. I think that the beauty of hip hop is that it is spread so much, and that New York obviously had an identity for so long, but then you had great artists from other parts of the country, from Atlanta, from Texas, from Memphis, and so from, LA, Oakland. And so everyone else was able to get their own identity. And so the same way we influenced a lot of people, then that influence came back. And I think that's the beauty of the art form. It shouldn't be just about one particular sound, one particular zone or area code or whatever. It should be, bits and pieces that influence. I'm pretty sure that there were times that maybe Funkadelic was influenced by something James Brown did, whether they're going to say it or not.
Yeah.
Two different places of the country, two different sounds. But
you find inspiration in a lot of different things.
Inspiration in a lot of different things. So, New York is there. It has its voice, but the media is not there to support it. So you don't think that there's an identity that has that New York
because they're
stamp
pushing one thing and they're not balanced enough to see that.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Like DMX, Cam, like there's still, it's not a huge gap, but now it seems like it. Like Fab, I think Fab reps New York.
I think he's the ultimate, he's the guy from New York that still kind of has it on his back, and I'm like, I love Fabulous. I think he's awesome.
Yeah.
It's dope. His new mixtape was, not as good as his one before that, but I think he reps New York like a New Yorker should.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So everybody else, not so much.
Wait a minute.
I'm gonna say that because I'm
like, wait a minute.
I'm a diehard hip hop fan that grew up on the West Coast, and New Yorkers rep New York like New York should be. And a lot of the kids that's in the forefront are not repping New York like they should be. They have good music. I mean, no doubt. I mean, they have great music, but they are doing other people's style and incorporate some New York stuff in it, but they're not doing their own thing, which New Yorkers never was biters.
Nah, we're not biters. We just not, we're not getting the focus. I think it's just too raw, and people at this point don't really want to deal with that. They want to kind of deal with this like money, booty.
Yeah.
The stuff that's on mainstream right now. It's like, there's so much more to that. But again, we don't have the megaphone right now.
There we go. So, and that's why we got classic hip hop, and that's why your stuff that you guys did back in the days is still timeless, and we still play it to this day, and young kids are rocking to it because it had substance and it had a balance to it.
Yeah.
So let's get back into it. Let's play some more Tribe Called Quest. Let's get into Clap Your Hands right now. This is White Label Radio, Ali, Shaheed Muhammad, and then we're going to talk about the new stuff he's doing with Souls of Mischief and bring it on home to some current stuff and not all this old stuff.
All right, let's do it.
White Label Radio, DJ Nails, Mellow One, Dash Radio. Let's go.